I don't want to say we're music snobs, but sometimes
Yeah, we are.
Sometimes,
Are you serious?
Sometimes that
I'll say it.
fits us perfectly.
Welcome to Music Musing. Every once in a while, my brother George and I would have these conversations about music. Music is our passion, and it's a huge part of our lives, and we decided to share those conversations with you. So if you love music, sit back and enjoy this podcast.
Okay, welcome back to Music Musing. Got my brother on the line.
How we doing?
Good.
Good.
Gonna get a little insight tonight. Good or bad. Yeah, a little good or bad insight tonight.
I think it's always good. I mean, we're not like reinventing the wheel or re-recording Back in Black or anything, but I think it's just this should be fun.
The whole album? That actually would be fun.
Well, I don't know.
Like with a different band? No, I digress.
Okay, that's not what we're doing.
Speaking of digressing.
Well, yeah. It's a good segue.
So I think we've talked about these before. I don't know if we actually talked about these before, but we're going to kind of discuss our guilty pleasures, the things that music-wise, let's be clear. Music-wise,
yes.
We're going to talk about our guilty pleasures in music that...
Yes, I think we've threatened maybe before, but I don't know if we've actually...
And I would say that probably... looking at just kind of the stuff I scratched down, because I don't know if it's telling or not, but you called and said, hey, let's do guilty pleasures. And I immediately wrote down 5, like, hey, here's 5 guilty pleasures. So
right.
I don't know if that's telling of what I feel about these things or not, but yeah, I think we might have threatened once or twice about it. But
see, this is slightly difficult for me because I guess I listen to what I like. So I had to like step back and realize that, when I say I listen to this, even if it's just on occasion, I had to put it in context of, I was actually trying to explain to my wife earlier. She's like, well, what do you mean guilty pleasure? I'm like, well, it's like, if you listen to country and say you sneak in some Metallica, it's not like frowned upon greatly, but it's like, oh, well, the country mantra, they wouldn't,
Well, I think it fits in 2 camps for me. I think it fits in you, as in your guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
Meaning it's something that you don't normally listen to. Like it's like you said,
right.
For you, it would be country. For you, it'd be,
no.
I'm saying that would be something that and
yes.
I think there's another camp that is nobody should ever listen to this type thing.
See, that's where I kind of struggled because I was like, some of these, I kind of made it more towards me. Like we preface these as this is our opinion. This is for fun. This is what we talk about. This is what we like. So we do it a little differently, And so I kind of put the personal side of it because, I wouldn't say that, these are, out of the ordinary or, frowned upon. It's just something that, like you said, I don't really listen to them all the time, but if it's on, like once in a while, you'll crank it up, like, well, that's really cool. It's a good song or whatever, I haven't heard these guys in a long time type of stuff. So
mine's a little different. I'll actually seek out, a couple of mine I'll actually seek out on a regular basis, probably, minimum once a month for a couple of these, not like each one of them a couple, every month, but every month I'll, or a month or 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever, I'll just say, hey, I'm kind of in the mood for this. I'm going to throw this on. So mine's a little bit different.
Well, I mean, I think it's kind of the same idea-ish because mine, like I'll have a channel on my Pandora station, I'll have a station on Pandora of, one of these or whatever. And it plays a variety.
What is one of yours?
One of my biggest, I'll start with, with the Super Bowl or whatever, and just kind of, again, there's not much, I don't really have a list per se. There's 5 or 6 things here I jotted down, but like, for me, it's like 80s pop, like techno pop, like, Howard Jones, the Human League Animotion type of sound, like that really like almost like 80s soundtrack, like John Hughes soundtrack music that if that makes sense with any of our listeners. I don't know why. I mean, like those guitars and so on and so forth are really and again, it's not all the time. It's just like, wow, it's, or I'll just turn on the 80s pop station on Pandora and let it roll, if I'm washing the car or something on a Saturday. It's like,
I mean, some of that comes from us being into those movies too, that, in that time frame that those 80s movies, basically if John Cusack was in it and it was an 80s movie, we probably watched it and it had that music in it somewhere. Yeah. Or, 16 Candles or Breakfast Club and stuff.
Right.
I think we should have also prefaced it by saying that, some of these guilty pleasures are people's bread and butter. Like,
absolutely.
That's what they listen to. And I think I don't see that as too much of a surprise. I kind of probably could have guessed that one, but I wouldn't have thought you would have sought it out to put a Pandora station together for that. That's a little surprising.
No, it really is. I mean, and I wouldn't say really often, but I mean, like you said, maybe once a month, every other week, every couple of weeks or something. Like, man, I just want to jam out some 80s, really, I mean, like cheesy pop, like I said, like Animotion or one of those, Human League, really, really campy, cliched 80s bad horrible stuff. So I guess that's one of my biggest guilty pleasures is 80s.
Well, I won't start off with my Super Bowl, but I'll start off with this one because it kind of ties in slightly to that. For me, it's house music. I will put on a house music mix and just drift away. And there are times where I will listen to it for hours. And I will.
Well, that's the idea, right?
It kind of, yes. I mean, that music was made for clubs. I mean, that music was made to keep people in a steady rhythm and dancing and moving on from one song to the next. But I love the precision in it. Like, we've talked about being Led Zeppelin fans and how off his drums are and kind of on purpose, and Tool with different time signatures and stuff. But man, I love when I can count to 4 700 times. And that is what one of my guilty pleasures is, to literally just put that on and drift away in it. And the good mixers will mix 2.5 hours of music that you can't tell when there's a separation between one song and the next. And I just love that precision feel to it, where even when the beat drops out, I could, you can put a metronome on and it's going to pick up. The next time the beat picks up, it's going to be precisely on exactly where it needs to be.
Oh, exactly. And most of it's computer generated now,
which is fine by me.
No, and I'm not knocking it. No, absolutely not. I'm not knocking. I dig it too. I mean, there was a lot of that. I don't think it's called house music. And it's less of a guilty pleasure, but it's in the same vein as like those like trance, same thing, house trance music, that really driving heavy bass computerized synth sound that, I mean, and a lot of it, there's no lyrics. Most of it, there's no lyrics to it, and it's and
I think for me though,
I'm a fan too. I'm a fan.
I think some of it though is, I'm a little more on the mellow side of it, where the beat does drop out on a regular basis, and you can hear either a single line being spoken, or you can hear the behind the almost behind the music, you can hear the swell coming up, and I like that drop out. I sometimes I don't like the continuous beat. I don't like the run for 7 or 8 minutes. I like it to be broken up, like every 3 minutes it drops out and you get this hiss or the sound, the background noise, and I don't know. It's like I said, as soon as we talked about guilty pleasures, like these came to me immediately, and I'm not sure that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Well, no, I mean, most of mine did too, and that was the thing. I mean, most of these were like off the top of my head. I think that's why they're I mean, we do derive some amount of pleasure to it, and it's not an everyday thing, and I think that's why it's it's labeled that. I mean,
but I wonder if are other people out there are they so ingrained that they don't have these? Or, I mean, is music that one area that certain people have it because they care about music? Or, because some people can get on the radio and turn on the radio on the same station for the rest of their lives and never even drift. Never.
Oh yeah, no, I think it's yes. I think it's both. I think there are people that are so staunch, so like even like lately it's been like old country fans. Like they will not, they won't even consider new country, let alone any other genre of music. I think they're so staunch. They won't allow themselves because it wouldn't be cool, or it wouldn't be like, they wouldn't be, country enough if they listen, said they listen to, Madonna, every once in a great while or something like that. It's like it's unacceptable. But I do think most people that appreciate music, even if you stay to the rock genre, there's different levels. I mean, because I like rock and roll. And we've talked about this, the definition of, I think we even did a podcast on just what do we consider rock and roll? It's like, you use the term, four on the floor, punch you in the face, sit back and just let it eat. You know what I mean? But sometimes I like a little bit, I like acoustic. I like when bands slow it down, go acoustic, but I also like, Pantera at volume 11. You know what I mean? So there's kind of like a pretty big range, and I think rock in general has the most of that. And I think people that appreciate music can appreciate, because rock and roll, they appreciate where it came from. We did the podcast. We started back with Elvis, the greatest rock and roll songs. We started
before
with Elvis
that with
in the
blues.
50s. Exactly. Clear back to, Muddy Waters and so on and so forth. So I think you have to be able to appreciate, if not, actively seek out. And I think the ones that are closed-minded enough to admit they don't have, or to say they don't have guilty pleasures, are the ones that don't really appreciate music. They just listen to something to be part of a clique. It's
100% exactly where I was going with it. I think, I don't want to say we're music snobs, but sometimes.
Yeah, we are.
Sometimes,
are you serious?
Sometimes that fits us perfectly. But I think it's also why we do this. We want to spur people on to have the people that care about music to have those conversations and to talk to us or other people about them, and go out and say, what's the most overrated album ever, in rock.
Yes.
We want people to have those conversations. And
absolutely,
it is ironic that you would use that as an example, though, when you started that conversation, because one of the ones on my list is old country. I am a big sucker for Waylon Jennings and Willie Nelson and early Cash, and June Cash, and him singing together, singing the daddy sang tenor, mommy sang bass, or whatever, the other way around.
Nothing.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it's ironic that you would start out with that.
You there.
Yeah, exactly. But it's ironic that you start out with that, because that's actually was on my list, is like old country, even like Hank Williams Sr. stuff. I'll sometimes just put it on, just listen to it, and I'll trip onto it with another one of my guilty pleasures, but they're kind of almost the same. But I love listening to bluegrass, to a good banjo and a good mandolin in a band and playing bluegrass, and that kind of was where that old country come out of anyways. So those two being a guilty pleasure kind of almost run together. But yeah, that's another one of mine, is just, I know you can't help me, and you're probably like ready to hang it up for this podcast at this point.
No, I again, see, that's been my biggest thing for my entire musical career. I'll put it in that kind of parenthetical situation. Everybody tells me what I have to like, but they don't have to reciprocate.
Right.
Like if they say, "Oh, you'd probably like country if you listen to insert, whatever, Waylon Jennings or Hank Williams Sr." Okay, I have tried it, and it doesn't appeal to me. Now, if I said, dude, if you want some really driving rhythm, or, put on, pick one, put on Lamb of God's, second album, people freak. Oh, how do you listen to this? It's trash. Well, I feel the same way.
Yeah.
But I gave yours a chance, and I don't mock you for listening to it. And when you think that I, worship the devil or whatever, which I don't, obviously, but I mean, it's always the terminology that freaks me out. If you're going to be closed-minded, you're not allowed to accuse me of being closed-minded.
Right, exactly.
You can't say that, well, you just don't like country because you haven't heard the right one yet. Well, that means you haven't listened to the right Lamb of God album yet either, then, if by those standards, you know what I mean?
Right.
And you haven't that's always been a big thorn in my brain, is the delineation between what's okay to like and what's okay not to like. And I think that falls directly into this guilty pleasures conversation.
Yeah, no, a lot.
Because,
but not to cut you off, but I think what you hit on it. That's what's driving this conversation for me is, again, we tiptoed around it and we talked about it, and we just never came back to it. But I think as soon as you said it, and I could think of 4 or 5 different things, it made me feel like that we're not the only music snobs. Maybe we aren't the people that do that, because we will take that suggestion and run with it and say, we did it, but I don't like it.
We joke. This is opinion driven, and there is a lot of tongue in cheek humor here with us, because we know each other, and because we know what the general consensus of music is, and we know where people's money is spent. We keep an eye and an ear to that, to the industry, basically all of music in general, because I mean, I wouldn't know who Florida Georgia Line was if I didn't listen to the jokes as well as people that tell me how bad they suck versus Johnny Cash or whatever. And I've never listened to either with great extent because it doesn't appeal to me. But it doesn't mean they're not popular, and it's okay for people to like them, and I don't dislike them for liking it.
Right.
And what you started to say, mockingly, that I was ready to hang it up when you said it. No, absolutely not. I think it's interesting. Some of the other ones, I have one other genre and then like 3 basically bands or
well,
I guess
let's hear one. Let's hear one.
But a couple of them kind of fall into the same thing. Hall & Oates. I'm a huge Hall & Oates fan. Not like I have to listen to them all the time, but I think they're in their 70s now and still touring.
Yeah. Well, I actually saw that the Rolling Stones are going out again too. So
yeah, Mick's healthy again after his heart procedure or heart valve replacement stuff. But I mean, Hall & Oates was kind of they got kind of a late start. But anyway, I'm not. This is not to brag on. It's just kind of they did a lot. I would have to do, I didn't do any research on this. This is just strictly from my heart and my head. I would bet Hall & Oates has at least 10 to a dozen number 1 songs from the late 70s, 80s, and probably early 90s. Uh-huh. And I mean, that's staying power, and it's not like they're my favorite band or anything, but I always if Hall & Oates came on, I never turned them off, and I don't know why they always stuck out as one of the highlights. And I guess that kind of falls into that 80s pop thing kind of, but I just really like their music. So, but I mean, it's not something I seek out with regularity, but when it comes on, I dig it. It's like, yeah, that's cool. Hall & Oates, I dig it. So,
yeah, no, I think that, it's, we do talk about that. We do talk about keeping up with the most current things and listening. And, I am pretty much on either Spotify or Pandora on a regular basis because it's so easy to get a group of things that I like, whether it is my staple of rock or whether I want to put house music on it to give me a good mix of the things. But, we do keep up with those other things.
Right.
Sooner or later, like if you watch the Grammys or if you watch, any TV show that has a song in the opening credits, it's like, wow, what's that song? It's pretty popular.
Right.
That song by Lauren Daigle that came out not too long ago, You Say, that's on the radio, and like it's a country music Christian music hit, crossover right now that
right, and it's on pop radio, Christian contemporary, it's on everything.
But we keep up with that. It's not that we are just stuck in the 70s and 80s that we love.
No, absolutely.
but that also does lend the guilty pleasures around us as well too. And you I don't know. Hall & Oates is. There's a lot of people that like Hall & Oates. I mean, that aren't really Hall & Oates fans. I don't know.
Well, yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I think it's the more I look at these, the more I go. Are we saying this because we're so solid in rock, or are we saying this because we think that it's kind of odd that people would look at us oddly because I think that's why it's a guilty pleasure. I think that's what it's all about.
It's tongue in cheek, and it's just kind of a little insight into we're not all, black eye makeup and black shirts and emo or what, doom rock or whatever. I mean, there is more good music than just rock and roll.
Yeah. I mean, one of my biggest guilty pleasures, and again, this might actually be the Super Bowl of mine. I am a huge ABBA fan. I will put on any ABBA album.
Oh, Motion seconded.
Yeah. And
I didn't even write that down, but yeah.
Yeah. It is a huge guilty pleasure. In fact,
if you're a fan of harmonizing at all,
you should be listening to ABBA.
Get an ABBA album, any one of them.
Well, but I think a lot of people that quote unquote love ABBA or care about ABBA or like their music, they only listen to like one or two songs, but like I could Chiquita, Money, Super Trooper, just the odd stuff I love too. Pick an album and I will put it on. Fernando, love it. Just can put that on and listen to it. It's a story, man. Listen to that story. It's such a good story. But yeah, ABBA is definitely one of my guilty pleasures. It's certainly something that if people that casually know me would not know that I listen to ABBA on a regular basis.
Yeah, no, and likewise, I think it's probably amplified by 10 to me. People know me wouldn't guess that I listen to ABBA, that's for sure. And it's not something I seek out, but and I think that's in our musical history. Our mom was a big ABBA fan, still is a huge ABBA fan.
But like you said, I mean, the production value of some of those albums for their voices in general, the music isn't stellar, the music isn't amazing, but the disco there wasn't much variation in disco beats and guitar and bass and drums in those songs anyways, but they're harmonizing, and the way they wrote stories with their songs is just amazing. And I think, like you said, you're doing yourself a disservice if you're a fan of singer-songwriters that have really good voices and you're not going back and listening to ABBA. You're doing yourself a disfavor. You're dissing yourself.
Yes.
You're dissing yourself at this point.
Exactly.
So what's like the most surprising one for you? Or did we already nail that one?
No. Depeche Mode.
Oh God, really?
Yeah.
I would not. I could have went through the alphabet and picked bands from every letter and never got Depeche Mode out of D. Really?
Yeah, really. I think the Violator album came out like early 90s, maybe 91.
Was it that early or that late?
Yeah, I would almost swear 91 or 92, maybe even.
I'm gonna look it up, but
yeah, no. Again, not something I seek out with regularity, but it was like when that album come out, I couldn't listen to it enough. Like when like I said, early 90s.
89.
Was it 89? Wow, late 80s. Okay, well, I was off by a couple of years.
You're close. You were close. Well, I mean, so Personal Jesus was released in 89. Actually, they said we began recording in 89. No, January of 1990 was the actual release. So
Wow.
you were on.
I was real close.
Yep.
Yeah, that whole Violator album that changed the way, and that falls into that techno, that driving rhythm.
Yeah.
Dave Gahan's voice, I just loved it. I was like, man, this guy, I love his voice, and that spawned numerous copycat-esque bands, and even KMFDM. I mean, there was bands that were were anti-Depeche Mode, to say the least.
Yeah.
But it's, again, not something with any regularity, but when it comes on, I most certainly turn it up. To enjoy the silence. That whole album, the whole Violator album, more or less that album, I guess, is a guilty pleasure. But I do enjoy the band. They're some of their early work, and even they just released an album not too long ago and are touring again after the lead singer got cleaned up and stuff like that. So I mean, I would say more specifically the Violator album by Depeche Mode is more of a guilty pleasure.
I would probably be in on that as well. In fact, the more we talk about this, the more I'm thinking of we need to have like a 5-part episode where we just talk about iconic albums throughout history. And that album was,
write that down before we forget about it.
Yeah, that album was a catalyst for them to be in the limelight.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And basically carried their career, into the stars with that album. But it's also an iconic album. We talked last time about, the most overrated. My, Nevermind was my most overrated rock album ever. Still an iconic album, can't deny it.
Oh no,
and I would say that Violator would definitely make the list of iconic albums of I mean, if we want to say 1990, you could say iconic albums in 1990. That's certainly at the top of the 10 list of that one. So
oh yeah, I agree. I agree.
I like the UB40 cover of "Can't Help Falling in Love with You" by Elvis.
Yeah.
Are you're on board with that?
This is I don't know if there's ever been a more bittersweet, hard to explain episode than
nobody's listening. You can tell me.
That was my wedding song for my first marriage.
Yeah, I know.
So
I
really like the song, but no, it doesn't bring back really great memories.
No, but I think that I was gonna let that to be your story if you wanted to tell it. But honestly, when that song comes on, I will stop. I really will. I know, they made their really big hit with Red Red Wine, but that cover that they did is, I can't say enough about how much of a credit they gave to Elvis by creating that version of that song.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was on we did an episode with Pete Pardo on his Sea of Tranquility YouTube channel that was cover songs that are better than the originals, and it was with heavy heart that I didn't, because I love that version, but if you listen to the Elvis version of that song, it's different. I mean,
I would honestly make them equal. I could really say that as much as I respect Elvis and what he did with that song, those two songs are equal in my book.
Yeah, well, we did the list of covers that were better than the original, and I just wasn't able to pull the trigger on it. It's still an extremely amazing song, an amazing version of a song, and a great cover. And UB40, I think, pretty much set themselves up. It was on a soundtrack, wasn't it? It was on what was that one?
I think so. I think it was a
Sliver or one of them 90s movies.
I'm gonna look it up, soundtrack. But you can give me one of yours.
I'll give you the last band before I give you the last genre.
Okay.
The Go-Go's.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think it was mainly because I I said that like past tense, have a crush on Belinda Carlisle.
Well,
But the music was just catchy enough where I dug it, and I thought it was cool. That was basically the first like all girl band that I actually recognized or like knew when I got it. And then like Lita Ford came along and like.
well,
Who?
it's funny you'd say that because Lita Ford's on mine, but
Well, it was just I don't know. I mean,
look, I don't. Again, we
It's a
started
guilty
this conversation. Right, we started this conversation with guilty pleasure, and
Yeah.
if you're talking about, attraction to the singer, obviously, for me it was Tiffany, but I couldn't stand her music. Belinda Carlisle, totally different story.
Oh yeah, no, I mean she had the talent and
Yeah.
to back it up. Again, it's crap. I guess you'd call it sort of pop rock. I mean, some of it's most of it's cheesy 1980s.
It's supposed to be. It's supposed to be cheesy.
But I dug it. They were putting it down and I was picking it up. You know what I mean? I got it. I was into it. I don't, it brings a smile on my face. I don't turn it off when it's on, but I don't seek it out. I don't have like a Go-Go's channel on Pandora or anything like that. But
it's bad because my mind goes to the most connectable song that I can get off her, and it's "Mad About You." And
yeah,
as soon as I do it, I can see the video. Why did we grow up in the age of videos? Because that scarred me for music, for the rest of my life.
When I say my last one, you'll go to that, and it'll really ruin your day, probably.
I only got 2 more on my list, anyways, but I'll give you the fun one because my wife makes fun of me for this one all the time. So I can put on, and this is any time of the year, it could be put on tomorrow, but I can put on the Burl Ives Christmas album and be lost. I can just start to finish. Wow. Burl Ives Christmas, yes, over and over and over again.
I don't have words for that one. But.
Holly Jolly Christmas right now. I could put it's almost July. I can put that on right now.
Yeah, I don't have words for that one. Burl Ives, undeniable.
Yeah,
Christmas in June, can't do it.
Yeah, what? Well, it doesn't help that it's 97 and 98% humidity where you are. I mean,
it was 111 in my shop today, and there's not even anything close to Christmas me feeling that way. So
okay, folks, he's in Florida, so you know where not to go. I got up this morning and it was 66 and the humidity was 27%. So.
When I went to work this morning, it was 77 degrees at 20 minutes till 6.
Boo. So Burl Ives, I mean, maybe that'll help. Maybe if you put on Burl Ives while you're in there, it'll make
No, I think I'd give me road rage probably. I don't know.
Silver and Gold. Come on, man. Seriously?
No, again, undeniable. I mean, the man's voice, he has the voice of an angel. Not in June. Can't do it.
What's one? Are we on your last one? Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, let's spill
This is pretty much.
My last one's going to be a parting shot, technically. So go ahead.
Okay. Well, my last one is. You're going to be like, why is that a guilty pleasure? Hair metal. I mean, extreme hair metal like Slaughter, Firehouse,
Flight of the Angels,
Tesla. Yes. I mean, that really teased out high-pitched singer. I mean, no. No. But that's I know. But let me finish. It's that very specific high-pitched, really Poison. See, like I don't know how to explain.
You're right. He was almost an actual singer in that band. He didn't do too much falsetto, so I know what you're. Going with it. So like, Hanoi Rocks, Danger, yes, Firehouse, Trickster.
Those guys that could just wail, and I mean it was horrible music, horrible songs. Yes, Sebastian Bach's.
Yeah,
I mean. I mean, again, not something I normally seek out, but it's like, you know what, man, and like, even here's like a really odd duck. I think they put out 2 albums, Vinnie Vincent Invasion, the Vinnie Vincent of Kiss fame, and Mark Slaughter of later Slaughter fame actually had a band. That's how Vinnie Vincent's
Vinnie Vincent Invasion.
Well, yeah, that actually, but Mark Slaughter was singing for him.
Yeah, I know.
And it turned into a career for Mark Slaughter and pretty much ended Vinnie Vincent's. But
man, building this Spotify list is going to be painful, so painful.
But I mean, there's a few just odd ducks.
I just realized I have to put Belinda Carlisle,
Dangerous
Mad
Toys.
About You, right next to Mark Slaughter with Vinnie Vincent Invasion. That just doesn't happen. Right next to Burl Ives.
Yes. This will be one for the ages. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think I could. I would honestly add it to my list as well. But I think it kind of goes back to ABBA. It's history. We did grow up in that, and
undeniable, right?
Yeah, whether you at that point in time, hip hop and rap was kind of like the total opposite of where heavy metal was. So you kind of stayed in those two camps, and then when Garth Brooks and stuff started really bringing up country again, and Travis Tritt and all those guys that were really bringing up country again, you kind of had 3 big main camps in that genre or that time frame, 3 different main genre types. So it's not a far stretch for me to say I would probably enjoy it too.
Right. Well, I mean, the music had zero substance. I mean, like Ugly Kid Joe, all those really like they were cranking out hair metal bands like by the hundreds, it seemed like.
You remember Lillian Axe?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. That's the type of stuff. And the music was more than less the same. There were a few standouts. Some of them, Ugly Kid Joe, they made a hit with that cover of Cats in a Cradle, and Tesla, their cover of Signs. That was pretty much.
I just heard that on radio the other day.
They had some other, Tesla actually had a couple other songs, but
Love Song and Modern Cowboy.
Yeah, I think something along those lines. But I mean, for the most part, there was no substance. It was warrant. I mean, it was party rock. It was stupid, mindless party rock.
We can blame Kiss for that, right?
No, I'm not blaming Kiss for that. Well, I mean, mindless, substanceless rock, sure.
That's what I meant. But also Vinnie Vincent. So,
well, yeah. Well, I mean, what are you gonna do?
So I'm gonna throw you. I'm done because if I build a Spotify list, it's gonna be painful. So I'm gonna give you my last one, and it is sort of a parting shot. And honestly, this is an album that I have literally probably listened to 30 or 40 times, and I'm not even joking. But I've actually listened to the Eminem Show about 30 or 40 times.
Marshall Mathers?
Are you still there?
Marshall Mathers?
Yes. I have listened to the Eminem Show album probably 30 or 40 times. I know that's that sound that I always look for. But it's like since it came out, and up until about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I put it on again. So,
well, give me a song off of it.
White America.
No, try again.
Drip. Oh, you want something popular?
Well, yeah, something I would know that it's that.
How about I give you a line, and maybe that'll work?
Sure.
2 trailer park girls go around the outside.
Okay, blue and purple pills. Okay. I mean, there's Eminem, there's Marshall Mathers, and then there's this bearded clown that's parading as a human being nowadays. I got it. I mean, I'm not a fan of the guy. His music some of it was catchy as hell. Most of it was, he's a very talented hip hop artist. I have no love for the guy, and I don't listen to his music with any regularity whatsoever. But again, as far as iconic, cannot deny the man's place in music dumb as a whole.
I would say yes, but
Dude, he's like Vanilla Ice 2.0. Come on.
I know, but I don't know. I don't know if maybe it is something that at the time I just needed something different, and that was about as completely different as it could possibly ever be.
Oh, sure. No, absolutely.
So I don't know if maybe that was just what fed into it, or if it was actually I just appreciated. Look, honestly, and 100% honest on this, I saw the movie and I loved the movie. I went out and got the album and listened to the album, and it stuck for me. I don't know if you've seen the movie.
No.
Just 12,
8 Mile.
8 Mile. Yeah. I don't know if you've seen the movie 8 Mile.
No.
I would highly recommend just watching it for the fun factor. Don't watch it as quote unquote his story. Just go watch it as a movie. It's actually pretty good if you try to take it being his story out of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I get it.
Like I think that if I had watched that movie and not went and listened to his album or not realized that he was a singer out there, I think I probably would have been okay. But I just watching the movie kind of turned me on to his attitude and his idea, and then picking up the album solidified that. It's different. Each song is like a completely different song, like completely different part of his mind. And sadly enough, I kind of relate it back to the way that I wrote when I was writing stories and poetry in school, and how that got carried over into Contrast, the band. And I felt a connection between what he wrote and a lot of the stuff that I wrote when I was going through things, early in my life, and that it translated into Contrast songs. So maybe that was where the connection came from.
Maybe. I guess I don't feel like I relate to the dude very much about anything, but again, I'm open-minded enough to take it in. I mean, I'm not.
Well, I'll put a couple songs on the Spotify list, but yeah, I figured that wouldn't be a shock. Was that a shocker? I mean, was that really not expected?
No, I mean we have some. I hate to say hip hop influence. I mean, the Beastie Boys. You and I are pretty big Beastie Boys fans and stuff. So hip hop in general is not a far reach for us. I mean, Anthrax did a collaboration with Public Enemy, and Anthrax also did, I'm the Man. They did a really rap and metal mix thing there, and which actually came out before Run DMC's duet thing with Aerosmith there, where they sort of more or less covered their song. But anyway, there's always been that kind of loosely tethered connection between rock and hip hop. In most alleys, I mean, the hip hop was kind of like the rebellious side of African American music, where like the blues and soul and and gospel and stuff, and then hip hop changed that almost completely. Whereas same thing, like the early Elvis did a lot of early gospel and like the bluesy rock, and then it turns into like the Panteras and so on and so forth. So there's always been that kind of loosely parallel lines in rock and hip hop that I don't. Again, it's not something I'd listen to with any regularity, but I appreciate the idea of it. And again, if that's your thing, more power to you. But I could definitely, no, it's not really a shock. I'm just not a fan of Eminem personally, or Marshall Mathers, or whatever the guy's name is, with all these, but I don't know the guy. I mean, the public persona of Marshall Mathers, i.e. Eminem, I personally am not a fan of the guy, so I choose not to listen to his music because of that.
And I understand. I do. And I know that has a stigmatism with it, and I don't, we didn't throw all these out because we wanted to be
politically charged or anything like that.
Yeah,
This was just,
or even talk to the, people say the same thing about Green Day.
Absolutely.
If you're on the right, they hate Green Day. I mean, there's no doubt about it. That bands like U2, same story. There are people that hate them because of who they are, not because of their music.
Right.
They could care less whether they make good music or not. They just don't like them because of what their public view is, and it's valid. I mean, there's definitely no, you can't take music, band, performer, name your, whatever you want to call it when you're talking about music. You can't take that and separate that from what world they've created outside of the music itself.
Sure.
If you look at somebody like Tupac, who was, however you want to put it, he was murdered or killed or shot. That was his lifestyle. Yeah. But you can't separate those two things. You can't say that, that people aren't going to be upset over his music because of what happened.
Right.
Or because of the way he spoke.
But also that doesn't make him any less talented as a musician, artist, or whatever.
100% true the other way. You can't take away from what they've done to music because of what they've done in their personal life either. So, I'm not getting on a soapbox, not trying to convince you of anything. I'm just saying that,
I didn't look at it that way. Absolutely.
We certainly need to have that conversation kind of at the end of this, that, we're not picking on anybody. I'm not saying because, I go out and listen to house music that I hate, that people should hate house music because it's a guilty pleasure. Yeah. I'm just saying that it's not in my normal repertoire of music that I listen to. I mean, it kind of is, but it's not something that I let people know, or that people know on a regular basis.
But I think people that listen to house music regularly or intently probably have a guilty pleasure of listening to, Metallica once in a while. Just for whatever, right? Zeppelin. Pick one, right? Exactly.
Well, I think we'll end up calling it on that, but we'll stick that other idea of, iconic albums in our pocket. But Eminem show is going to have to be on there.
I know, it's undeniable.
Anyways, okay, brother, thanks for the time, and if you guys got stuff to send to us, send us your guilty pleasures. We'd love to hear them.
Absolutely, musicmusingfeedback at gmail.com.
Cool, thanks, brother. I'll catch up to you later.
All right, man. See ya.
Yep, see ya.
We want to talk to you about music, so reach out to us at musicmusingfeedback at gmail.com.
You can also find us on most social media sites by searching Music Musing or George or Craig Seibert, Sybert.
And you can also find us on Twitter as musicmusing_ as well.
Thank you for listening to this Music Musing podcast.